It's a pleasure to be back here again, seeing you all. We're going to be very efficient. We have a really exciting discussion with some phenomenal panelists. I love this topic, investing in critical frontiers for society. I'm going to take literally 30 seconds to reference the thing I love about private markets, I didn't say this in my previous discussion, is that you can look at the actual businesses that are being invested in. We don't need to rely on macro data or large aggregate numbers. We're able to actually look at investments that are being made and businesses that are being funded and entrepreneurs that are being backed and the outcomes of all of those efforts. And I'll just mention our organization is headquartered in New York, the Global Private Capital Association. We're a membership organization of fund and institutional investors. Our second headquarters is in Singapore, where we're co-funded by the Monetary Authority of Singapore. And tomorrow we'll be announcing a presence, an institutional presence here in Abu Dhabi in partnership with the Middle East Venture Capital Association, building on our long track record of hosting a Middle East Council chaired by our board member, Dr. Karim El-Sol. So just getting that quick plug in. Let me quickly move to the panel. I'm going to kick it off with Dr. Lean Kawas, who's managing partner of Propel Bio. Life sciences and healthcare is one of the areas that has really investors are extremely excited about. It seems that we're at the forefront of some very important innovations, including innovations potentially driven by artificial intelligence. Just talk us through your investment thesis for Propel Bio and what opportunities you see to leverage new technologies and innovation to solve problems for the future.
Yeah, I think that healthcare and biotech, life sciences is one of the key economies of the future. We're living longer, people are more focused on their health, and there's bigger awareness around access of treatment or technologies that could improve human health. So we co-founded Propel Bio actually 18 months ago, a group of experienced industry veterans that have, cumulatively over 100 years in drug development and experience in advancing therapies or technologies in the space. And the one thing that I would say that is very exciting around healthcare is the overlap between technology and biotech, where we're seeing extensive acceleration in discovery. There's significant number of companies that are using artificial intelligence to accelerate discovery. Large pharma is integrating AI in clinical development to accelerate testing of drugs or technologies within the clinical setup. The regulators, we're in the US LA-based fund. Even the FDA is putting forward some regulations around how can we use real-world data using models that could help us also understand and accelerate access of treatment. For our industry specifically, I think a lot of people are familiar that there has been significant dislocation in valuation, which is again provides extensive opportunities for investors, and that's why we've accessed investment opportunities. And specifically around Propel, we're not only interested in the private market. Because of this dislocation in valuation, we have been looking at public companies with the mindset of private equity to support them with our experience beyond capital, bring experts within the industry that can help progress the companies and recover their expected valuation. And this industry specifically, and we've seen it as part of our portfolio, where when you have a proved product that could have an impact on human health, you see a separation from market trends, significant upside. And we have a few of these examples within our portfolio.
Okay, I'll come back to you, but I want to hear specific examples of the diseases that are being addressed and problems that you're solving with those technologies going forward when we come back in the second round. I'm going to jump over to Jill, who is leading food and agritech and agriculture and food sustainability for ADQ. If you can just talk, Jill, a little bit about your specific mandate in targeting agribusiness and food security for ADQ, and what role does technology or innovation play there? What types of solutions are you seeing? And then maybe you can just touch on as well, how important are financial returns for ADQ in this space, or are you really targeting other kinds of outcomes?
Sure. So maybe what I'll do first is let me talk a little bit about the food and ag sector and technology. So when you think about food and ag, especially the upstream part of the value chain, you think about farmers, you don't necessarily think about technology first. It's one of the last sectors that have been impacted by technology. But that's changing fast. What we've seen in the last 10 years is amounts to about $190 billion of investment going into what we call food tech and ag tech. And that's absolutely fundamentally changing the sector, how food is produced and how we consume food. Now, when it comes to ADQ, when we think about investing, we think foremost about how we can leverage our investment capabilities to impact Abu Dhabi. And so food security is a priority for us. And so we look at technologies that help us not only increase productivity, for instance, in the UAE or in the places where we invest, or technologies that allow us to localize value chains that we couldn't have in Abu Dhabi otherwise. Just to give you a couple of examples, if you're in the UAE 10, 15 years ago, you couldn't get local berries throughout the year. You could get them during the winter, but throughout the summer you couldn't. Now, through the use of controlled environment ag and technology, now today you have all sorts of berries, blueberries, strawberries, that are produced locally on our shelves throughout the year. You can also get salmon that's sustainably produced here in the UAE on the shelves here. And talk a bit about plant-based protein, which is a bit of a hype, but it's incredibly important for places like the UAE where it's quite challenging to think about localizing the supply chain of beef, for instance. So all of a sudden you can shorten that supply chain and localize a bigger portion of that in the UAE. So that's what we try to do as ADQ when we look at deploying capital in the space. Our mandate is financial as well as creating impact. So we do aim to return, we pay dividends to our shareholder, we do aim to return capital to our shareholder fundamentally. But maybe I'll add just one more point, is to say the challenge in investing in innovation and technology in food is because a lot of these technologies are very early stage. So unlike many sectors that are more mature, you have to deal with a lot of early stage small VC investments. And so for large companies like us, it's slower, it's a longer term process deploying the capital efficiently and having an impact. And what I'll add to that as well is also a bit of the risk, what I call the translation risk, because a lot of the technologies that we see have been developed for other climates. So when you try to localize them here in the UAE, you need to tweak that a little bit and add that risk factor to your investment case. Very simple example, if you think about greenhouses, they've been around for decades really, but the fact of the matter is they've been created in temperate climates where the challenge is you're trying to keep the heat inside and keep the cool outside. Well, when you bring it here in the summer, well, it's actually quite the opposite. And so there's an adaptation, a risk, another layer of risk that you need to factor into your whole financial economics. But look, in all regards, look, we're generally positive. And what we see as well is some of these technologies being developing here, being potentially useful in the future as we live in a world that's more arid and where we may see more climates like ours here in other parts of the world. We see technologies being developed here being useful elsewhere.
Great, thank you. So jumping quickly to Mahmoud with Shrouk, you have made your track record on growth stage and early investments in sectors like fintech as a cornerstone, but now you're moving into areas such as deep tech and even life sciences as well. Why that move and what opportunity do you see and what does it take to invest in that space?
First of all, thank you for having me here. Really excited. This is a great time to be in Abu Dhabi, where we're celebrating all the innovation and all the investment that's are happening from Abu Dhabi exporting to the world. I would actually emphasize one important thing. When we started Shrouk Partners back in 2016 and 17, we were ahead of the market, in my perspective, on where actually the ecosystem was. And we have been always behaving in a manner where we believe in our market, in our region. There are 400 million people plus. There are young population. And we believe that marrying technology to smart people can solve real hard problems. At that time, I would say, and continue to today, technology or financial technology is what we call it fintech, is continue to be a big part of what any traditional venture capital doing in this market. But there is an emerging of a newer themes as a reflection of the talent pool that has been in the market that are really taking a risk on new stuff. So I'll touch briefly on two examples. One example actually in the agri space. So we were an early backer and the first backer of a company called the Pure Harvest Smart Farms that actually took the challenge that Gil talked about from greenhouses that are being used to keep the heat inside to actually using greenhouses to sort of control the climate because it's actually quite harsh out there. And today, this company operates across the region, and we are exporting it to Asia. We are actually in an expansion plan to Singapore in particular. And again, that is a reflection for a smart entrepreneur in this market that's solving bigger problem that can be exported outside. Another critical kind of inflection that we are seeing in the market today in the life science. So the power of compute has unlocked a lot of potential for us. So we backed this amazing company from founders that comes out of Israel University in Cairo that they are solving a biotech problem. It's called Proteina. And what does this company do is AI powered for drug enhancement rather than drug discovery. And it is just really amazing when you see this entrepreneur that putting their heads down and leveraging the deep knowledge that has been created in our market with also connection and advisor from world-class institution that they have relationship with, that they are building a new product and exporting them to other part of the world. And to sort of kind of sum this up, what we are doing today on the frontier tech is a reflection for where we think the power of our entrepreneurs is from talent point of view and the power of marrying that smart capital with them to unlock potential.
Okay, great. I mean, I think we can build right on that point, coming back to Dr. Lean, with the example of you're from Lebanon and Jordan originally. You built a very successful business and sold it in the United States, and now you're based in Los Angeles, but you're launching here again in MENA, focused on this region. Talk about some of the specific problems that you're looking to solve for, the types of drug discovery that you're thinking about, and expansion of access to healthcare in the MENA region.
Yes, so as part of our investment thesis is we look at products that either are best in class, so they improve on the current products, drugs, or they're first in class, addressing huge unmet medical need where there's no treatments available for patients. We've been focused on metabolic indications. We have a few companies that are part of, focused on diabetes or outcomes of diabetes. I'm sure everyone in the audience have heard of Ozempic and, weight loss products, which has been driving significant shifts in a positive way in the industry. We're also focused on orphan indications, which is, important to address because first, it has a favorable regulatory path for approval, plus pricing and revenues are very attractive in these indications. The second part of your question is our interest here in Abu Dhabi and MENA region. My roots are from the Middle East. My whole professional life was in the US, taking companies public and raising capital, advancing products in the pipeline. I think it's very exciting to build on what Mahmoud said. Abu Dhabi, being here, and I've been here 8-9 years ago, there is a huge shift in the whole energy and the focus on future economies. We do think that biotech is one of these future economies as people are becoming more conscientious about their health and the extensive advancements that we're seeing in this space. With the overlap and I'd say the infrastructure that in this region around AI, I didn't realize it was the fourth country when it comes to AI. I've met a lot of great entrepreneurs that are focused on databases and advancement of product development. So we're looking, Propel, to set up something here. So we want to meet, for the first time, it's not a fund that is coming from the US to raise capital. It's a fund that is looking here to actually build connections and potentially help advance the industry here locally, build local businesses that could have a global impact.
Great. Again, with this theme of global ties, right? Because it's all about bringing the international community in and then exporting out. Jill, you mentioned that the example of, export to Asia. where are you finding solutions and how are you partnering globally and how do you think about solutions that you're finding in other parts of the world and bringing them here,
Sure,
in
Kate.
food specifically?
Yeah, look, I think it's all over the place. When we think about food security, we think primarily about three levers to improve food security. Is one, how can you increase local production wherever you are? Second is how can you build more reserves to the extent you can? And third is how do you participate more actively in the global supply chain of food? Now, all of our portfolio companies in ADQ for food and ag aim to do one or more of these levers. Just to pick an example, one company I think is doing fantastic work is Silal. Silal is a company we created in the UAE in 2020. And the initial onset of creation was to help farmers get better access to market by aggregating their volumes, help them sell it, package it, and go to the retailers. But what we realized in that process is that there's an opportunity to upscale how we produce food in the UAE. And so what we set up within Silal is a dedicated Agritech team whose sole role is to scour the globe for technologies that are relevant for desert tech, just so we can help push the envelope of what we're doing. So I can give you examples of working with European suppliers of sensors that we rolled out last year, and that enabled us to reduce water consumption by 50%, which is massive in our context in the desert climate. I can talk about the Japanese technology, for instance, which is Farah, where normally it takes you about 3 months to produce compost. We're doing that in a day. And as a result of that, you can now nourish your soil and enrich your soil, which is quite critical. So that's how we look at it. Whether it's in the UAE or in our portfolios that are international, I can take the example of Unifruti with operations in Chile. We look at rolling out, for instance, robotic picking as we deal with labor shortages and rising costs of labor in that environment. So quite a full range of places we look for technology at, and it's throughout our portfolio, really.
Great, exciting. I'm imagining the Abraham cards come into play here because Israel's done incredible work in this space. Mahmoud, just finishing up with you. Do your investors expect something other than financial returns? Do you keep track of metrics like job creation or female employment or other social impact outcomes other than just financial returns?
So there are three layers in my view, and to kind of answer this question. At high level, when you talk about some of the large institutions in our region, and when they are allocating capital to the region, probably they have, I would say, a developmental kind of perspective on that. So when it comes to kind of allocation to the region from pocket, I would say take the mark. But then when they're selecting the manager and when we're kind of talking about our incentives as managers, as GPs, right? We essentially eat what we cook. That is how we get measured. That is what they are underwriting for us. And that's kind of the expectation. Now, on our duty as managers, we also quite focus on making sure to understand what is the wider impact of what we are doing. So today, if I look at over our past 6 years of a journey, we have backed around 60 companies across the region. And the region for us is the Middle East and beyond. And if I look at employment, we have, our companies have employed around 14,000 people across this market. And actually around 35% of those quite young, so on age of 30 and below. Female representation stand around 10%, which I would say is still probably on the lower end and something that we are keeping an eye on and would like to see that increasing. But also at the same time, we measure the technical talent and the technical engineering participation on that pool and stand around like 11% or so. So there's a lot of metrics that we track on a regular basis. Again, for us to understand the impact of our business. But ultimately, as an alternative investment manager, we are judged by our financial performance, and that's key for us. Now, maybe just a bonus on that. What we have seen in the market from investor appetite, if you put out to the market a green product, there is actually some population of the investor that would like that. And the example there is one of our portfolio companies put together a green sukuk, which is kind of conventional, well, it's a Sharia compliant bond type of kind of structure. And the appetite was quite interesting for that because it does fit a mandate of a green and a mandate of Sharia or inclusion for some of the investors. And I think that is an idea that we wanna scale more in this market.
Great. I love that. Ending on this, the green premium, which I think is something we're going to see, and the social impact premium. Thank you so much to all of you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And I'd like to pass the stage on to the next panel.
Thank you.